Okay, so as you rest back, just take some time to feel your connection to the earth underneath you and to allow the tension of your body to release down into the earth. And start to feel your breathing slow down. So as you receive the support of the earth and gravity underneath you, you can start to feel your breath slow and deepen and probably move down into your lower belly. So as I said at the beginning when we were talking and speaking our intentions for what we want to receive for this from this class, I have been really feeling the energy of and the kind of overwhelming push of consumer culture over the last week, the last few days in particular, with Black Friday and then the cyber sales and the push to really consume and the way that pervades our entire life and consciousness, even when we consciously try to step out of it, how much that pervades our entire experience. And I feel that more than ever we're being driven to accumulate more, to earn more so that we can and when we're being asked to earn more, the way that we're asked to do that is to spend more time working, which exhausts us. And we have these forums, these social media forums now, which asks us to present a exterior successful version of ourselves. You know, even more than ever, this kind of persona that we present to the world is being evaluated day in and day out. And all of this speaks to the way that we gather a sense of value and well-being from our exterior world. We do this even though when we work harder, acquire things, have social status, all these experiences of working harder, acquiring things, achieving social status, we know from our past experience that they don't provide us with any lasting peace of mind or contentment. So most of us can relate to this kind of ongoing sense of restlessness in our life. This kind of feeling that if we just try a little bit harder, if we do a little bit more, or accomplish something a little bit better, that maybe we'll feel a little bit better in ourselves. And we feel it throughout our day, but at the end of our day, a kind of longing to have something to show for all of our efforts, even a sense of a longing to feel something internally for all of the effort that we're putting forward in our days. And this kind of ongoing dissatisfaction creates a sense of disharmony in our being. And it's by doing practices like this, like our yin yoga practice, these quieter, more introspective practices like our meditation, that we can take a step back from all of this madness, from this insanity that is really being indoctrinated into us and into our unconscious in very subtle and desirable ways in our consumer culture. You know, they're set up to keep the culture that we live in going. So by coming here today, you're finding balance again. You're taking that step back and finding balance. So this is a really beautiful thing that you are all offering yourselves, and you all have very beautiful intentions and unique ways of doing that. Okay, so you can make your way from your Shavasana to wide knee child's pose to begin. So this pose, we chose it like butterfly pose. It affects all the 6 main meridian channels of the lower body, so wakes up all the meridian channels in the lower body. You can use a bolster for this if you'd like. So you're going to take your knees wide, your toes together, and you're going to fold forward. And as I said, you can fold forward over a bolster. You can turn your head to one side. If this doesn't work in your body because it's too much weight through your ankles, the tops of your feet, and your knees, then a great alternative would be to take that butterfly pose, the diamond shape through your legs, and then folding forward here, and then as well putting some support underneath the knees. So whatever works best for you in your body, you can choose. So as I said, this affects the 6 main meridian channels in your lower body, the kidney, the liver, the spleen, the stomach, the gallbladder, the urinary bladder meridians. So this consumer culture that we live in, it keeps us constantly distracted. And it creates an inner level of distress that has become so much a part of our internal landscape that we are like a fish in water, and we don't realize that water is our landscape. We don't even realize that we're swimming in our own discord. Our attention is constantly fixed outside of ourselves with ongoing activity and distraction. So this continual search for fulfillment outside of ourselves through wealth, spiritually whitewashed as abundance or prosperity, keeps us chasing after an ever dangling carrot in front of us. Okay, so you're going to slowly make your way out of child's pose and make your way onto your back, just so you can feel the effect of the energy running through your body. And then bend your knees and roll to your side. And you're going to make your way up to a kneeling position. And we're going to do a yin pose that I haven't done with you yet, but it's one that I'm trying to incorporate into my own practice quite often because for several reasons. One is that most of the meridians either begin or end in your toes. And the other is that, our connection with the earth is most often we have our feet are connected with the earth. And so my intention is to really open up that connection to the earth through my feet. So the way you do this, it's sometimes called, it's called toe stand, I think sometimes. Well, except for in Hatha yoga, that's a different pose. Anyway, what you do is you come up onto your toes and you sit back on them. We don't stay in 5 minutes. If this doesn't work for anybody because of some people have hammer toes, then I was trying to think of an alternative for this today. Don't come into it until we all come into it together because we're going to time it just for a minute. I was thinking that you could do a little toe stretch with your feet against the wall instead. That would be way less. So that would be my suggestion for you. Okay, so you spread your toes out. Make sure your baby toes involved too. Okay, are you ready? Unless you can lean forward too. So I definitely lean forward in this one. I'm still growing used to this one. So we'll stay in this for a minute. So keep breathing. Make sure there's space between your teeth, your jaw's relaxed. Okay, and then that's a minute, so you can come off your toes and just feel the energy running through all the toes. Just notice how that feels in your body. And then we'll go the opposite way. So we'll stretch the fronts of the ankles as well. So last would be just to do one foot, one knee in the other. Okay, so see what works for you in your body. Or you can lift both knees. Again, we won't do this for a full 5 minutes. So you're just going to lean back and lift both knees. Come back as far as works for you in your body. Relax your shoulders. Okay, and then release that from your body. And we're going to come down onto your stomachs now. You might want to have a block close by, especially if you have any neck issues. Okay, so on your stomachs, we're going to be doing Sphinx pose. So just take a moment to roll your hips from side to side. You'll probably feel that energy flowing through the fronts of your ankles there, the blood flow rushing back into the fronts of the ankles and through your feet. So you'll be feeling that here. Tuck your toes under, lift your knee, reach back through your heel. Do that on both sides. So making space in your low back. And then you're going to walk your elbows back to either underneath your shoulders or just in front of your shoulders. If you have any neck issues, you can always place your block here. And here we're really working the kidney meridian, putting pressures on your kidneys. This pose always comes towards the beginning of our practice just to give us energy for our practice and also for our lives. So despite the ongoing pressure to keep busy in the name of growth, whether that be our own growth or the growth of whoever we're working for, growth and profit, we do have practices like yin yoga that allow us to open to rest and ease within our own selves. So these quiet, still, reflective practices allow us to open to the simple sensations of our bodies, our own breath, and experience the state of our minds and the energy moving through the meridian channels. So when we come and practice these inner practices like yin yoga, we realize that harmony and sanity are always right here on the other side of distraction. Okay, so slowly come out of this pose, making your way down onto your belly. Feel the echo and rebound. And then come up onto all fours. And you may want to use a bolster for this next one. We're going to do pigeon pose. If pigeon pose puts a lot of pressure on your knees, we are going to be in this pose for 5 minutes, then I would highly recommend that you take this pose on your back and do figure 4 pose instead. You're going to get all the same benefits because you want to be able to be in the pose with ease. So definitely don't take it on in pigeon if you are going to be experiencing pain in your knees. And you could do that figure 4 with your foot against the wall too. That's a nice way of doing it. So we're going to come into pigeon. You can use a bolster for this as well so that you're resting your torso over the bolster. Let's start with the right knee coming forward and then reaching your left leg back and long. If your buttocks doesn't come all the way, your right buttocks doesn't come all the way to the ground, then fill the space with the second folded blanket. And you're going to fold forward here over your bolster or down to the ground, turning your head to one side. So in this practice, in this yin practice, yin can go a few directions. I think you're probably seeing that we're training a little bit more in mindfulness in this practice. So when we come into a yin pose, we find our appropriate edge. So we don't want to come to that absolute place of crazy burning sensation. You never want to feel any sharp shooting pain or anything electric. You always want to be able to breathe into your lower belly. Then you want to be able to stay for a while. So I like the instruction to come to about 70% effort. And then once we come into the pose, we resolve to be still. And so that's so that we can train our mind and we can be with the sensations that arise in our body. We can be with the emotional impulses and reactivity that come up. And we can notice that, thoughts will come and go. So that's part of the mental training that happens in yin yoga. So in our practice of yin yoga, we're being with our minds, the impulsivity and reactivity. Our minds are constantly looking for somewhere to place their attention. And there are so many external sources that are willing to give your mind that somewhere for your mind to place its attention. Whether it's the argument you had with your partner yesterday, social media, watching movies, reading, knitting. There's so many places for you to place your attention. But in yin yoga, we're really practicing something different. We're being with the sensations in our body, and we're focusing on our breath. So very, very slowly, you're going to make your way out of this pose, and we'll come onto our backs to feel the rebound. So feel that energy flowing through the right side of your body. That pigeon pose is particularly good for the liver and gallbladder meridians. Or anger, irritability, frustration, assertiveness. Okay, and then we'll take the pigeon pose or eye of the needle on the other side. So if you're doing eye of the needle, the left leg crosses over the right. So remember that the other side could be quite different. You're going to take your left leg forward, reaching your right leg back and long. And on this side, if and when the buttocks doesn't reach the ground, feel free to fill that space. So come into your pose, find that appropriate edge, and resolve to be still. Turn your head to the other side this time. So coming back to that mental training that we do when we practice our yin yoga, what happens is when our mind is not fixed on something or when we're not doing anything, we feel uncomfortable and we look for something to hook our attention. So with yin yoga, we're training our mind. And for those of you that practice meditation with me as well, you know that this is called shamatha. And shamatha means placing our attention. So where am I placing my attention? So in yin yoga, as you know, we come into the pose, we resolve to be still, and then we focus our attention on the sensations in our body and generally our breath in our lower belly. And then when our mind wanders, and it will, we bring our attention back to the sensations in our body. And our breath can also be a very useful tool in steadying our attention. So breathing down and into our lower belly, where there's a lot of space away from thought. So very slowly, you're going to come out of this pose and make your way onto your back to feel the echo, the movement of energy through the other side of your body. Okay, and then bend your knees and roll to your side. Going to make your way up to seated. And we're going to take a cow's face pose. So if this pose bothers your knees, then you can take it on your back. And you would just cross your right leg over your left leg. So you cross your right leg over your left leg and draw it in like this. So same thing. You can hold on to your shins or your ankles, whatever works best in your body. We're going to take the right leg over the left leg. And if your buttocks is well and lifted off the ground, then you're just going to fill the space with that extra blanket that you have. You want to feel sensation on the outside of your right thigh, into your right glute. You could fold forward a bit. You could also use your bolster here to support you. And that way it might be better to face, have your mat long in front of you, because then you can, if you've got a hardwood floor, your bolster doesn't really stick. Then you're able to lean forward and have some support for your body here. So find that appropriate edge and then find your stillness. You want stillness, ease, relaxation, receptivity in the pose. When we come to our practice of yin yoga, we're surrendering from the doing, the achieving, the goal-oriented nature of our lives. Yin yoga allows us to embody the qualities of yin: inactivity, stillness, softness, the internal, quiet, introspective, receptive, slow, and the interior. So instead of focusing on our outer world, we're placing our attention on our interior world. Okay, slowly come out and make your way onto your back to feel the rebound. And then we'll do the other side. So if you're taking cow space on your back, you're taking your left leg on top on your back now. And if you're doing it seated, then you're going to cross your left leg on top of your right leg. And you're going to find that just right pose. This pose is called shoelace in yin. And you're going to lean forward, finding that just right place, coming to a place of stillness. So often we confuse recreation and activities, such as watching a movie or reading or knitting or even scrolling through social media. I'm guilty of that one, watching YouTube. These kinds of forms of doing as ways of replenishing. And while they may be physically relaxing, they don't give us a break mentally. And they really don't give our eyes and our general visual overstimulation a break either. So practices like yin yoga, they really replenish our interior world. Same with meditation. Okay, so go ahead and make your way out of this posture and lie down on your back. Feel the effect of it in your body. And then make your way back up to seated. And we're going to take it's called half dragonfly, but it's Janu Sirsasana in Hatha Yoga. So your right leg is extended, your left leg is bent out to the side. You may want to sit elevated on a cushion or a folded blanket so that your hips fold more easily, your pelvis folds more easily over your hip bones. So find a comfortable forward fold in your body. You can use your bolster again to support your head, your torso. Relax your extended leg. So while many of us feel that our lives are leaving us feeling stressed, afraid, tense, depleted, unsettled, hypervigilant, thin-skinned, exhausted, flooded, and overwhelmed. Each of these words have their opposite experience waiting for us when we take the time to meet ourselves in our bodies. We can feel safe, at ease, restored, rested, anchored, protected, at peace. We can feel resilient, and we can experience well-being. Okay, slowly come up, rest on your back, feel the rebound. Okay, slowly make your way back up to seated and extend your right leg out. Sorry, your left leg out. Your right leg is bent to the side. Again, create that little seat on the folded blanket so your pelvis can roll over your hip bones more easily. And if there's space between your knee and the ground, it can be good to fill the space with a cushion or that extra folded blanket. Maybe you need 2 extra folded blankets. And then you're going to fold forward again. You can use your bolster to create space to support your head. So you'll feel sensation along the whole back of your leg here. This is your urinary bladder meridian. That gives you a sense of peace and calmness, ease in your body when that meridian is balanced. Okay, so that is our bell to come into our final resting Shavasana. I recommend you place a bolster underneath your knees. The reason for this is for the smooth flow of energy in your body. So nice curvy rounded lines if you put the bolster underneath your knees. So we rest in Shavasana. You can place your hands on your lower belly to draw your energy inwards if you'd like, or you can have your palms turned up beside you, whatever feels best for you and your body. So this is your time to integrate, to receive your practice, to feel the effects of your practice, to feel the energy moving through the meridians in your body. And continue to rest deeply here, to let the earth hold you. And I'm going to sit up and read you a poem. This poem is called At Sea by Mary Oliver, and it's from her collection of poems called Dreamwork. The haze has us in a slow pink and gray confusion. Everything we know, the horizon, for example, and the distant ridge of land has vanished. The boat glides without a sound over a sea of curled and luminous glass. There are no clouds in the sky wherever that is, and clouds in the water. And maybe we have entered heaven already, the happy boat sliding like a bee down the throat of a huge, damp flower. Some birds, like streamers of white silk, approach us, crying. Ah, yes, how easy, how familiar it seems now, that long, lovely thrusting up and down of wings. So reflect back on your experience today of this yin yoga class. Just notice what stands out to you, what seems most important. And how does that relate to the rest of your life? What's the commonality between your experience and the way you live the rest of your life? And what's one small thing you're going to take with you from your experience today, off your mat and into your life? So in a moment, we're going to come back together in our circle. We'll just remember that all the guidelines that we agree to when we come together in our community still apply in our yin yoga circle here, that we give each person the dignity of their own experience by speaking from our own experience, using the words I and not you, and knowing that each person has access to their own inner wisdom just in the same way that you do. So there's no need to fix or change anybody or give anybody advice. So when you feel ready, you can slowly make your way back up to seated, and I will open up the lines. And then you can speak about either what stood out to you, maybe any insights that you had about your life, or anything that you feel like you're going to take away into your life from today's experience. And I'm going to unmute you all, but if you have a unquiet environment, you can control your own environment by muting and unmuting as appropriate. And it is the top of the hour, our agreed upon time to finish. So if anybody needs to go now, you can duck out at any time. We completely understand. Nicole, you're a new person.
I feel like a new person. My energy level has been brought into more of a calm and mindful state, and it's just lovely. I love this place. So since I'm already talking, I'll just go ahead and talk about my experience. So if any of you keep tabs on me at all, you know that I have a tendency to get stuck in fear. So while we were in Sphinx pose, I heard that voice say, go deeper. And I was like, but I don't really want to. I'm kind of comfortable here. And so there's a little argument going on in my brain, like there usually is. And it's like, no, it's okay. You're safe. It's time. And I was like, okay. So I straightened my arms to go into a deeper pose. And then I heard, and always remember that if it is too much, it's okay to back out. So that's what I'm taking out into my world this next week as I come to a decision that I need to make or want to make or don't want to make. I don't know yet. But I'm going to carry that. It's okay. You're safe. And if at any time you don't feel like you're safe, you can come back. So that's it.
Yeah, I love that because I think we tend to think that things are so final, right? You know, like if I make this decision, it's forever and ever, and I have to live with it forever and ever, and that's just not true, right? We can always change our mind.
We can change our mind.
Yeah, it just reminds me of something Tim said to me yesterday, which was like, "You have a tendency to change your mind," and I was like, "Huh, oh, okay." Like he said it in a way like it was a bad thing. I was like, yeah. I know, like, even the leaders are like, so what are we doing? Like, is it this or that? It's like, well, sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. Sometimes we need to change our minds.
And it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like that. And I think that's part of really being open to the moment, right? Like knowing that, oh, okay, now to use your example, oh, okay, now it is good to be in this back bend. Oh, and now it's not.
Yeah.
Right? And that adaptability is really important.
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye.
Bye, Diane. Have a good time at work.
Thanks. See you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Hi, I'm Nicola, and I totally agree with what you've just both been saying. I feel very calm and really rested. I've been through a very difficult year, and it's been difficult to just do this and just rest and just to back off from doing things. And yeah, it's been great. Just like thank you. So it feels very nice just to relax, just to not have to do anything and not to go off doing everything for everyone else. Good to do things for yourself.
Yeah, I think the tendency I think every single person here can relate to is that when we experience difficulty, the knee-jerk reaction is to do something, do anything, you know.
Yeah,
And I can relate to that so very much. And yet what you're saying, what you've experienced here and what we've probably all experienced here is just how nourishing it can be to take our foot off the gas and to stop doing, and just how healing that can be.
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for speaking to that. It's really important.
I had a really nice, peaceful session where my mind wasn't going from here, there, and everywhere and far after thought. It was really nice to bow out, calm down, and be still.
Yeah, so it was very difficult for you to be still. Is that what you're saying, Becky?
Because after Jack went, I had a lot of thoughts of, did I do this? Did I make him happy? Did he have a nice life? And although I know that I did give him everything I could, it was just a constant narrative going around in my head, and it was just really nice to take that hour to quiet the chattering chimps and the psycho babble, and just
Mm-hmm.
spend time getting back to feeling calm and peaceful again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The chimps are actually quiet for a moment.
Yeah, it's almost a variation on what Nicola is saying, isn't it, Becky? That, you know, when we're really distressed, it's so tempting just to continue to distract ourselves or to do something, because it can be so difficult just to be with the emotions or the narrative or what's going on in our minds. And yet when we are quiet, although it can be difficult, it is quite healing.
Very healing.
Mm-hmm. And I think particularly when we do it together.
Yeah. And you know, they were in like different countries, there's still people around you with the same mindset. And
Yeah.
understand how you.
Yeah, I know it can be quite difficult when I'm going through a very emotional time to come to my mat alone. But to have this space where I know, okay, everybody's going to be here with me, or to go to a class, then it's like there's that extra support, and that makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Tiana. I totally agree with how difficult it can be to quiet myself. And I could hear, even now that I was resting in yin yoga, I could hear the voice telling me what things I should do. And but the thing is that I never regret the time that I spend on my mat. I never regret it because I always feel so much better. And yet it's so hard sometimes to stay still, even though I know that it has benefits and I can feel them during practicing and even afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you so much for speaking openly and honestly about that, because I think it's true for each and every one of us, including myself, how difficult it is to stay still, and that it is true that that voice comes up and gives us, the list of all the things that we should be doing rather than anything but this, and that voice doesn't go away. And I'm pretty sure you were here this past week in meditation. When we talked about that, what we're doing is training. You were there for that talk, weren't you? Yeah. So we're training, and over time. So right now, the muscle of reactivity and the willingness to depart is stronger, right? The reactivity, that impulsivity is stronger. And what we're doing, the training of the shamatha, of placing our attention, what we're doing is training that. Right now it's weaker because we have so much impulsivity and reactivity, and we're, as I said in this class, we're always looking to hook our mind somewhere else, somewhere external, and that reactivity, that impulsivity is so much stronger because we've trained it so much to go elsewhere. So here in the practices of meditation, like we do every Monday, and in the practice of yin yoga, we're training our mind through our body to stay. And it is a training, and it takes time, and it's slow and developmental practice. And over time, staying gets easier. And it is a cumulative practice too. So each time you come to the practice, it's like you can think about putting another, if you like check boxes, or if you imagine putting another block on the tower, you are accumulating your staying power. You really are, every single time. So that's the good news. we can get excited about that. That part is very exciting.
I have to say goodnight, and I wanted to thank you very much. This was a beautiful class, Melissa. And
Hey,
yeah,
thanks.
that training thing.
Thanks for being with us, Paige.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had, well, thank you very much, first of all, for a lovely, lovely class. It was just beautiful. When I first did child's pose, I felt this flush in my face, and it stayed with me throughout the whole. It was just like I had a sudden blood flow just to my face, as though I'd come in from the cold. And the second one was in pigeon, when my left leg was bent, and I had a sudden release, and as it released, I had a gasp of taking in of air, in different, like sort of like that, as if I was, as I would if I was crying, and I was taking in a breath, and then it just went back to that sort of normal breath, but with the release, I had that intake of breath.
So a lot of energy moving for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is an energetic practice, and we are tuning into the way the energy moves in our body. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Melissa. But thank you for a lovely class.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Becky.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Melissa. That was a wonderful practice. I definitely felt at the during the shavasana at the end a lot of energy moving through different parts of my body, like it was free, and there was a lot of movement. The one thing that stood out to me about the teachings were how incredibly easy it always is. There's always something to hook you up and take you out. And I noticed that I can identify with that, because often I will, I'll come to the kitchen and I'll be, okay, now I need to make breakfast. And I'll go, oh, but, making breakfast is not enough. Can I do something else while I'm making breakfast? Can I listen to something? There's always something that I, despite the amount of, so what you were saying about it's a long and slow process. So despite meditating on a regular basis, despite taking the time to do these yin practices, I can attest to the length of the process and the fact that there's a lot of force. There's a lot of force there that's pulling you out constantly. Very much something to just be in the present moment. There seems to be a real power there, a real force that constantly wants to lift you up out. And that I do notice on quite a lot during my day.
Me too. And I was talking to Tim about this just the other night, and I was saying it just feels like it's getting stronger. It doesn't feel like, and isn't that interesting? Because I would say that my practice is deeper more grounded, more entrenched than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the pull is also deeper and more entrenched than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as women as well, it's culturally accepted and almost encouraged to multitask.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody said women can multitask, women can do this, women can do that. And it's almost expected of you that you will never just do one thing at a time. And it's really difficult to get out of that that culturally accepted way of doing things, and just to do one thing at a time and to focus on that one thing.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking even about that, what's expected of women versus what's expected of men, and wondering if the pressures that are being placed on women are that much different than what are being placed on men these days. And I don't, and I think that they're different and similar. That and yet equal in different ways is what I'm saying. Because I've noticed myself starting to say that the ways that women are expected to earn a living for and take care of families and hold up appearances, but I know a lot of men that do the exact same and run a household and run a family. I know a lot of men that do the exact same thing, that are looking after their children, that are earning a living for their families, that are keeping up appearances. And I do live on the West Coast, though. And there are men walking around with babies strapped to their I mean, maybe I live in a bubble here, but men are very involved in their children's lives here. Anyway, that gets a little off the topic, but I think that what you're saying is true. And then I do see men sitting and resting in a way that kind of fire gazing that men do. I don't know, maybe women don't partake of the fire gazing as much. And you know what I mean. Yeah. But I see Tim multitask in ways that, even when he's doing things that he feels are off, he's got multiple things going on at a time in ways that he didn't used to, a decade ago, just because our technology allows for it now. So we live in a world that encourages it. Yeah. Shar, did you want to check in before we?
No, actually, I'm good. I found my little peaceful spot, so I'm good. It was a good class.
Good. So I want to thank you all for joining us today and for taking the time out of your lives, because it does take an incredible amount of intention and discipline to carve the time out of your life. Because I know, like Nicole said at the beginning, that the tyranny of that to-do list is strong. Tim's like, the tyranny of the to-do list. It's true, right? And so there are a number of things that could have been calling for your attention today that are far more seductive than spending an hour and a half at a yin class where Melissa's going to let everybody speak, for longer than that hour and a half. And it's going to keep you from getting to all the things that you need to get to, right? So I appreciate that you take this time, and I don't take it lightly that you carve the time out of your day. It's really important. It's a very, as my friend Annie always says, it's a very generous act that you do this for yourself and for your community. So I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Namaste.
Namaste.
I will see many of you tomorrow for our meditation. And we will have another YinDulgence class on the last Sunday of December, which I believe is New Year's Day, even New Year's Eve. Yep. And we're going to be doing a sort of intensive, so that we'll be doing a retreat to take us into the new year. That's sort of a vacation week for many, and I'll be working that out over the next little bit and announcing it, so you'll know that that's what's coming. But I'm very much looking forward to that as a way to transition and set our intention of how we're going to move into the new year. Okay. Have a great evening and the rest of your day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.